really what you're having to do is put into words why someone, the ideal client, the ideal customer, should care about the features. Turn them into something that actually benefits them. And really what it comes down to thinking about is, what are they seeking out? Welcome to Building Your $1 Million Brand. I'm your host, Kira Giglu, messaging and marketing expert, conversion copywriter, and CEO of the Copy Atelier. I'm on a mission to help female entrepreneurs build $1 million brands. So if that's you, you're in the right place. Join me for the best tips, strategies, and stories from the expert trailblazers, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are building their $1 million brands their own way. This is Building Your $1 Million Brand, the podcast. Let's get to work. Hello. How are you doing today? I hope that you are having a great day, a great week, and I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you're looking forward to another episode of the Building Your $1 Million Brand podcast. What's new with me? Not much. It was my birthday the weekend. I turned 30, which was exciting and scary in equal measure, but midnight came and went, nothing bad happened, so I'm just going to keep going, and I'm excited for everything that's going to come in the future. So I think that's the vibe I'm trying to go with. This episode is a little bit different just because it's the first one I'm ever doing in an actual soundproofed room. So I'm curious to know if it'll make a difference to how it sounds when I listen back to it and when you're listening to it. The reason I'm in a soundproof room is not because I've built one in my house, although that's something that I often think about doing, and maybe one day I will. But no, our house right now is a building site. We're completely renovating the inside of our house, and we thought it would be a good idea to continue living in our house while we did this. Newsflash, it's not. So the house is an absolute building site. It's dusty and messy, and it's not great. Hopefully we're just a few weeks away now from it being where it needs to be, but it's definitely a lesson in patience and various other things, trying to live and of course work in the house. So it got to the point I couldn't work in the house anymore. So I decided that for the month of September I was going to come to a co-working space in the centre of Edinburgh, which is I live just outside of Edinburgh, so that I could, get work done, not be interrupted by hammering and drilling, and not have to sort of argue with my husband about who gets to use the one free room to do their Zoom calls because we're both working from the house. So this is where I am, and there's a soundproofed pod. I'm in that pod recording this episode. I hope there's not noise in the background. I hope you can't hear anybody else. If you can, I'm sorry. We're going to get through this together. I'm actually quite glad that I had to come out to this co-working space today because I got a flash of inspiration for this episode. I have to drive in, and it was pretty nice actually to have to come into the real world for once, right? Obviously I work online. It's an online business primarily, so all the clients we work with are all over the world. There's none in Scotland, so they're all over the world. We only use Zoom to connect with them, and other various, tech apps. So sometimes it's quite nice to be able to come into the real world and get away from your house. And so that's what happened this morning when I drove in. And it was actually quite nice because as I was driving in, I was thinking about what I wanted to speak about in this week's episode. What did I want to talk about? Not usually, every single thing always comes back down to our $1 million messaging framework. And because it's so ingrained into my brain and essentially is like my modus operandi, it's not very hard for everything that I think about to always come back to it anyway, so that's fine. But of course, I like to keep it fresh. I don't want it to be prescriptive, so I like to come up with new ways of looking at things, especially when we're looking at sort of general marketing ideas and things like that. I like to think about new ways to look at it. So I was sitting there in traffic, wondering what I was going to speak about. And then I got a flash of inspiration from a pizza restaurant sign. And I know I was surprised too. But the reason I got this flash of inspiration is because the sign said, we use stone ground flour to make our pizzas. Right, that's what it said. And I was just kind of looking at it. And as I was reading it, I just kind of thought to myself, and then, hey presto, I knew what I wanted to talk to you about today. What it all comes down to is turning features into benefits. It's one of the most important things that you need to be doing with your messaging, with your copy, your marketing in general. And I've even got a little Mad Men reference for you, so you know that it's going to be a good episode. So let's get going. If you want to build a $1 million brand, you need $1 million messaging. A core aspect of that, your brand story. Get our free Create Your $1 Million Brand Story workbook and get to work on crafting the kind of brand story that $1 million messaging is made of. Use your $1 million brand story in your messaging, copy and content as a core aspect of your marketing and as a foundational part of your $1 million brand. Grab your copy now at www.thecopyatelier.com/MDBS. So, what I want to talk about today is turning, or really translating, features into benefits. And this isn't a new concept, but it's actually pretty vital. What it really means is making people see the benefit of each individual feature that your offer or product has. Right, and I said I had a Mad Men reference for you, and here it is. If you ever watched Mad Men, if you've not, I didn't watch all of it, I didn't watch every single series. I watched the first series and then I kind of got sick of it. But it was enjoyable for that first series, purely because what I enjoyed from it was the fact that it's based on one of the original copywriters, like the guy who's known as like the father of marketing or advertising or something like that, David Ogilvy. So actually Mad Men, the series, is based on a book that he wrote, which now that I know that, I kind of want to read the book. So he's one of these people who said that, for example, copywriting is salesmanship in print. Like he said that famous quote. So he's very like a big name from, way back when it comes to advertising, when it comes to marketing, essentially what you see in Mad Men. So I loved the first series because, of course, I'm a marketing geek, because that's what I do, that's my job, and it was really, really interesting to kind of see it playing out on screen and everything like that. And in that very first episode, if you've ever seen it, and if you've not, I would encourage you to go watch it, just because even if you're going to get into the whole series, it's an interesting episode because they kind of cover a lot of the basis of like big kind of marketing, copywriting lessons in that first episode. But in that first episode, one of the things that the main character, Don Draper, who apparently is supposed to be based on David Ogilvy, that's apparently true. I'm not like the source about Mad Men, but that's what I read. He is having to come up with an ad campaign for a brand of cigarettes. And this is obviously, it's like in the 60s, I think, when it's just come out that, hey, cigarettes aren't actually good for you. Because people used to think that they were good for you. And then all the research came out saying that, actually they're not. So he was having to come up with an ad campaign trying to essentially get people to buy cigarettes, even though people now knew that they weren't good for them and that they probably shouldn't be buying cigarettes or smoking cigarettes. And so they had a meeting with the owner of the brand, and he was sort of talking to him, and it's also good to see the process, because when I was watching it with my husband and I said, that's exactly what you have to do, you have to have these conversations. I always find it really funny, not to go on a tangent, but I always find it really funny when sometimes potential clients or people will think that you can come up with copy for them or messaging for them or like an ad campaign for them within 5 seconds of meeting them. And it's like, a conversation needs to be had. There needs to be pulling out of information. We're really good at that. We have systems in place. We have like questionnaires, and we just know the questions to ask, right? A lot of the time getting the good answers is about knowing which questions to ask, and we know which questions to ask. But it was just great because in the episode, that's essentially what they're doing when they're having these big meetings with the clients. And I just thought it was exciting because I was like, this is what I spend my time doing on Zoom when I'm talking with people. This is what it's all about. So they were having this meeting to kind of figure out what could they be saying in their ad campaign to actually get people to pick this brand of cigarettes, in amongst all this new research and everything like that. And as Don Draper, the main character, was having the conversation with the owner of the company, he was asking him, well, how do you make your cigarettes, or how do you process your tobacco, essentially? And the guy explained, like, we do this and then we do that and then we do that, and he mentions that they toast the tobacco. And of course, if you see the episode, that's the thing that he hones in on, and that's what they use to come up with like the slogan, "It's toasted," which was actually a slogan used by Lucky Strike in an advertising campaign. But I think it was much earlier than the 60s. But anyway, the point of all this is, how has this got anything to do with it? It's because when I saw that pizza sign and saw the phrase, "we use stone ground flour to make our pizzas," it immediately made me think of that. It's toasted. And because really what that is that's a feature, right? So the fact that in that Mad Men episode, and obviously in real life, the tobacco is toasted, that's a feature of that product that they were leveraging and playing on to make this a reason for why you should buy this product. And it's the same with that pizza sign, right? They're using that in their advertising campaign. It was a pretty like simple sign at the side of the road. It wasn't like some huge billboard or anything like that. But they're using that same feature in their advertising campaign. The fact that they use stone ground flour to make their pizzas. Right, this is a big, here's why you should buy our pizza. Here's why you should come to our restaurant to eat our pizza, because we use stone ground flour. Now, the reason I thought to myself, and the reason why we're talking today about actually turning features into benefits, is because anybody telling you a feature doesn't actually mean anything to you, right? Me knowing that a pizza restaurant uses stone ground flour to make their pizzas doesn't actually mean anything to me unless I'm some sort of like wild pizza connoisseur who happens to know the implications of eating a pizza that has been made with stone ground flour. In the same way that me smoking cigarettes that are leveraging and playing on the fact that the tobacco in them is toasted is not going to mean anything to me unless I happen to be a cigarette connoisseur and knew the fact that it's toasted means X, Y, Z. And that's how we get down to turning features into benefits. Because really what you're having to do is put into words why someone, the ideal client, the ideal customer, should care about the features. Turn them into something that actually benefits them. And really what it comes down to thinking about is, what are they seeking out? So when someone is coming to work with you, they're either looking to achieve a goal or solve a problem. Sometimes it's both, oftentimes it's both, but really that's how you can kind of, look at it. They're either wanting to achieve a goal or solve a problem. So what you have to be thinking about is, how is every single feature of your offer, of your product, of your solution, how is that going to help them get there? How is it going to benefit them on their journey? But it's also thinking wider than this, because you also have to be thinking about what kind of experience they want to have. How do they want to feel? What's important to them? For example, I'm sitting in a soundproofed telephone pod booth thing. And when I came to do a tour of this co-working space, this was a feature that turned into a benefit for me. We have this soundproofed telephone booth so that you can take calls in private. And I immediately, of course, because I'm more familiar with this sort of thing, thought to myself, great, I can do my client calls in there. Great, I could record my podcast episode in there, meaning that I don't have to try to record a podcast out where everyone else is working, because that would be impossible, right? So it was a feature turned into a benefit. How is this going to help me achieve my goal? My goal being to get all the work I have to be getting done in this co-working space instead of in the building site that is my house. So it's really thinking about these kinds of things as well. And that kind of idea of the wider implications, the experience that they want to have, how they want to feel, is really important too, especially when you get to thinking about the multi-level benefits that your offer or solution is going to have for your ideal client or customer. And the reason why this matters so much is because one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're listing the features that their offer or product or solution has or contains is thinking that that's going to do the selling for them. So whether it's on, the sales page for your retreat, or your services page for your one-on-one coaching container, whether it's on the product description of an actual physical product that you have, or a service or a subscription or a software, whatever it is, this makes no difference what it is. The same thing is important, is making sure that you're not only listing your features. Because when you're only listing your features, what you're not doing is thinking about tipping the scale, right? And this is in reference to last week's episode when I was speaking with Mel and we were talking about selling your zone of genius. If you haven't listened to it, you can go back and listen to it. I would highly recommend it because she had so much good stuff to say. But one of the things that she spoke about was needing to make people understand why they need what you're selling, why they need your solution, so that you can tip the scale and get them to the point where the money doesn't matter anymore to them. And that idea of money doesn't matter, really what it's about, remembering the hardwired decision-making processes that the human brain has, which means that we're trying to avoid risk, which means that we need to be able to have that scale tipped to the extent that our brain realizes and sees that the investment that we're going to make in something is worth the risk, right? That's really what it's about when I'm talking about where the money doesn't matter anymore. It's actually where the benefits outweigh the risks. That's what it's about. And being able to translate your features into benefits helps this massively, obviously. And not just helps this, but is vital to this. So when you're thinking about how you can turn your features into benefits, and like I said, this is irrespective of what your offer is, what your solution is, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's your business in general, you in general. Why should somebody hire you? What's the features? Like, you could even think about features being the qualifications you have, the experience you have, the authority points you have, and who cares, right? How does that translate into a benefit for your ideal client or customer? Really what it's about is making it clear, making the answer to the what's in it for me question really clear. And the me in this situation is your ideal client or customer, right? So a good way to do this is to imagine, or if you really want to do this, you could get someone like your partner or your friend or your family member. I don't always recommend doing this because people can take it too far, and if they don't understand it, it's not great. But if you wanted to, you could. But essentially, imagine having to pitch your offer, your product, your solution to someone who's going to be very critical of it. So, like, thinking about how would you defend every single feature of your offer? How would you answer if somebody was to ask, and why should I care that it has XYZ? Why should I care that these pillows are made with duck feather and they are 100% Egyptian cotton and they also are breathable? Like, they're features. Why does this matter? Turn it into a benefit. And if all else fails, a really easy way to turn a feature into a benefit is to use the phrase "so that." So 2 magical little words that you can use to literally turn any point into a benefit or a win for your ideal client or customer. And you'll see that. So if you start paying attention to other people's copy, especially their sales copy, you will see, if their copy is good, the use of "so that." And you, of course, could use any kind of stand-in phrase that essentially would represent that as well. You could use the word meaning. You could even just say "which means," like whatever you use. That's literally like the equation for translating a feature into a benefit, is using that phrase "so that." And this really does go for any aspect of your brand that you're marketing to your audience, right? So whether it's a paid for offer or, for example, a call to action for your lead magnet, right? Whether you're asking for a paid for conversion or a conversion that's just, can I have your email address in exchange for this thing? Like, I was literally just working on this aspect for one of our agency clients as part of our role as their chief marketing officer. We're stepping in, creating their marketing strategy and implementing it for them. So we create the strategy and we do the work. And for this client, we're developing a new email marketing campaign for them. And so this same principle, this same notion of translating features into benefits and kind of, it's almost translating existence into benefit, is needed for something as simple as the tagline and call to action on the website prompting visitors to sign up to this campaign or this funnel. What's in it for them? Why should this person sign up for your emails? Why should they sign up for your newsletter or your opt-in or your free mini course? As well as why should they buy this course or apply to work with you or join your membership? Why is this something that will benefit them as a whole and each individual feature? Why should they care? And especially when it comes to each individual feature, remember that what you're trying to do is pile up the benefits. You're trying to show them that there are multi-level benefits. It's not just the overall benefit of this, it's also the benefits of each individual feature, each individual aspect of that offer too. As long as you make sure to always bring it back around to your audience, that audience that's made up of your ideal clients, your ideal customers, always thinking about their life experience, their current situation, their journey when it comes to writing the copy, when it comes to creating the messaging and the marketing, you will not go wrong. Okay, that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway was. You can tag me on Instagram at Kira Shiglu and you can let me know. I hope you have a wonderful day, a fantastic week, and I hope you keep dreaming big. I'll talk to you soon. Are you ready to build your $1 million brand? At the Copy Atelier, we're on a mission to help female entrepreneurs build $1 million brands through elevating your messaging, refining your copy, and strategizing your marketing. If you want to learn how we can help you, head over to our website, www.thecopyatelier.com, to find out more.